one option that I think is sort of like a revamping of the police force. One of the reasons that they have a police that keep have holy, ঘুষ খায়, traffic করে, all this kind of stuff and everything. One of the reasons is because they're very underpaid. Okay, I think if we need to, if you give them a proper income, if you give them, if you remove their dependency on, so like people like us, providing bribes just to get out of situations. If you toughen up the law whereby they're getting a proper source of income, then maybe you can hope that
Yeah, but Doctor,
it
you're
will
talking
change.
about the pre. I'm not saying this to support the AL, but you're talking about a pre-AL situation. The police actually were paid very well under this new administration, and the hiring practices was revamped. People from reasonably Bhadra families started going back into the police force, which wasn't the case for the longest time. They,
Yeah.
I mean, we're forgetting to look at we're forgetting to
But
look at
those
the
people
milestones.
probably, I know one person in particular, and that person left the police force again because of the same corruption that's
Hierarchy.
like hierarchy, whatever.
Like, okay, but I think what Bangladesh, obviously, we're not all thinking the same way. But I think what Bangladesh is failing to understand is that you're never going to. There's no one stroke all to fix the world, right? You can't just say, "I've removed
No,
this
and
picture, now
I
everything's
don't think
gonna be fine."
anyone's saying that. I mean, I am not saying that. I'm not even saying that, oh, let's just build a community and everything will be okay. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that while we have this chance, right, we don't have control over other things. What we do have control over is giving confidence and a sense of safety, a sense of non-judgmentalness to our communities. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's gonna solve world peace or what. I mean, get world peace or whatever it is. But I think that a lot of the conflicts that are happening around the world is because we have become like completely numb to other people's suffering. People are dehumanizing Palestinians. They don't count. The kids that are dying don't count, right? This is a wake-up call, I think, for all of us to recognize that we have to live with the differences. Like Zishan, you don't necessarily agree on this particular subject with me, and you and I usually have very similar, feelings towards politics and whatever. But this is one thing.
What don't we agree on?
I don't agree on your stance of this particular movement.
See,
but that's another conversation.
So you like kids saying that they don't want the HSC exam? You like that?
No, of course not. That's
my stance on this movement. That I think that this was a strong army.
Why are you mixing everything? That's the thing. You can't just mix. The original movement was, I believe, a student movement. Whether it was manipulated or taken advantage of is not the point. The point is the students put their lives at risk. The students stood there. The students went out on the streets. Yes, what's happening now is really unfortunate and they shouldn't be doing this. I agree. But I also don't agree that they don't have a right to protest, and people didn't have a right to be angry at our prime minister for making us feel unsafe. Yes, it wasn't a war. I agree.
I didn't disagree with you on that. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why you're putting me on this extreme left of the spectrum. I don't disagree with any of those things. I disagree
because we've all gone right, Zishan, and now you're the sole rep. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're just
no. Listen, I'll tell you why. Because I don't disagree with any of those reasons. I don't disagree with any of those motives. What I do disagree.
I was just picking on you because you're late.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I do disagree with. I'll tell you, I disagree with the narrative that's being bandied around, which is that these guys are the good guys and those guys are the bad guys. That narrative will never fly with me because everyone's a good guy and everyone's a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as good and bad. It's all about your perspective.
The whole conversation about Sheikh Mujib is that he can be good and bad. He can have both.
Yeah.
But
it's all about the money. I don't know what good and bad. There's no good and bad. You think there's good and bad in this world?
It's oh my God, that is really dark thinking, man.
No, it's all about the money. You think all this Aumi League or whoever's coming into power, if you have access to so much money, it's all about the money for them. That's all it is.
No, and even these students, the fact that we're trying to present them as these great heroic figures, sure, I feel sad that they got shot. But this heroism, man, they're in it for themselves as well. They're in it for the self-interest. They're out to get something for themselves.
But But the thing is, like, that is almost all of us. Even if you talk about our parents in 71, what was their incentive? We want a free country for ourselves, right? But the point is that, yes, now it's getting
right
to a
now,
point
Sushi,
where it's starting to disturb people, because people are starting to feel like they're taking on the role of what the previous government did. And that is a little scary.
no,
That's a lot
and
scary.
also you're
So-
right. I think one of the factors that the scary part, when you're mentioning the scary part, the fact that people are becoming impatient. People are becoming
Yeah.
impatient. They accepted 15 years of torture. Okay, why aren't they willing to? Why do they want the economy or the country be up and running in 15 days? I don't understand.
But do you
that.
think they are becoming impatient? I think
Of course they're
I
becoming
personally
impatient.
think if you look at the other political parties, look at Jamaat, for example, 15 or however long that they've been banned since 2013, effectively.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah,
They have been very patient, I think. Since all of this has happened,
Yeah.
they are waiting. They're giving a chance to this government. So is BNP. There was an announcement that this government is going to be there for 3 years. You didn't see any of the political parties say anything about it, and I think that's pretty impressive, very frankly. And
Yeah,
it's a
for
great,
us,
not with regards to how the term of the caretaker government. I'm saying that people, like, I think the adults, let's call them the adults, okay, the adults are understanding that, yes, okay, we had 15 years of torture. Now finally we have a chief advisor who's well revered, well respected, and can take the reins and take this country forward. Why don't we give them time? I think the people, the stakeholders that aren't giving the caretaker government the time are people who are willing to watch the caretaker government fall. And also, I feel the students are quite impatient. I feel as though এটা আমাদের দাবি।
হ্যাঁ, ওরা তো বাচ্চা, impatient হবেই তো। When you were 20,
yeah,
how
you have
impatient
to,
were you?
Oh my
so
God,
that's a
yeah.
hindrance. So every single time যদি ওরা বাচ্চা, আমরা যদি we call them বাচ্চা, come on, you বাচ্চা বলতে পারবে না। They toppled the government, they বলতেছে স্বাধীন বাংলা and all that. So
Yeah,
I mean,
but
psychologically
they
though,
also
they're still
have
not
to
completely, their brains
psychologically they
are
have
not developed,
no,
right?
Yeah,
I
and
want to
Until
give
you're 30.
They toppled the government. They didn't topple the government. I'm sorry, they didn't topple the government. They were spearheading something that toppled the government, but they didn't topple the government.
Okay,
Sorry.
listen,
Yeah.
Zishan, তুমি দূরে বসে, don't say this stuff, okay? Don't say this stuff. You have to come here, all right? You have to come here and you have to see exactly what's being going on. You don't, first of all, probably don't have access to the information that we have right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the propaganda.
Let me finish. The students, yeah, it was their movement, all right? It was their movement. It was, and the objective maybe was instigated by someone else. That's why we're talking about American bases, American involvement, Indian involvement, outside involvement, and stuff like that. But it was their movement. Now what the students have also received is basically what you call a gutso attitude that, look, you know what, আমরা এটা করতে পারছি, এখন থেকে সবকিছু আমাদের মতন হবে। কোনো কি, and what
আমরা ওদেরকে মাথায় তুলে রাখছি যে ওরা করতে পারছে।
Exactly. I mean, ওইটা I agree that আমাদেরকে, I think we've given too many positions access to the government. Yeah, they should have been a part of the committee. They should have been the watchdogs. You know, watching.
Did you guys get a chance to see the video that I sent you? I do want to mention this guy because it's really interesting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mufazzal Haq guy?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mufazzal Islam. So he's apparently a journalist. He's also an Islamic scholar, like lives in I think Belfast in Ireland. But anyway, so he basically made this video asking all of these people on the interim government, the two students, to resign within 72 hours, I think he said, 72 hours, or he will expose them. And it was like this really, and he's like, yeah, don't mess with me. So I mean, it's really interesting.
I want to jump in on this just for a second. Sorry, but that's a really good point, and it kind of ties us back to the base and the American involvement thing. I'm not disputing that these kids showed enormous courage. I'm not disputing that they took bullets to their chest. I'm not disputing that they were out there believing in a certain vision, right? I'm not disputing any of that. I'm saying in their minds they toppled the government, sure, right?
Right.
I believe in their minds they're heroes and revolutionaries. Sure, and to some of us they are definitely heroes and revolutionaries in a very very small scale. Frankly, that's not the definition of a revolutionary. Is not 1,000 people dead in 2 weeks. That's not the definition of a revolutionary. Fidel Castro is a revolutionary. Let's be honest about what a revolutionary is, right? I mean, a revolutionary fights a war. A revolutionary there's a lot more that it. মানে আমাদের এই tendency-
Are the standards of a revolution in the West, should they be the same as as the standards in the East, or say
I mean, you
a
can't,
country
but
with
you can't put
350 million people, their revolution, as opposed to a country with 20 কোটি মানুষ?
you can't,
Should it be the same principles?
right, but you can't put one of these kids in the same league as Che Guevara. You just can't. It's not the same league. But they're
No.
claiming that they
But that
they're-
doesn't
but
mean
they're
that they
treated-
don't have their place.
Sure,
I
sure.
mean,
They
yeah,
have
I
to.
mean, I
Sure,
agree.
they've already
I
created
agree.
their place in history. They've already created
Yeah,
their
but this
place.
is
No,
also
And I agree with you, Zishan,
We've
that
also made, Dosto, we've also made a big deal out of what they've done. I agree what they did is great. I agree what they did. Yeah, but 300 জন 300 জন মারা গেছে. I'm sorry to say, এরকম অনেক দেশে হয়. This doesn't get classified as a revolution. Iranian people get shot every bloody hour of the day. You know, I mean,
I think it was classified as a revolution because because the government fell. I
okay,
think
agreed.
that's
Agreed.
yeah.
But the fact that we're treating them as such, when we're giving them this pride of place that you would reserve for someone like Che Guevara or Fidel Castro, is they haven't earned that pride of place yet.
But
Right?
Zishan, can I say something? It's a completely different world now. I think that's another thing we have to take into account. These kids do not have reverence in the same way that we do. And it's a completely different playing field for them because they have information constantly at their fingertips. They can get educated in many different, forums on many different platforms from many different avenues. So it is really, I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying that their generation really does think they know everything, just like we all did.
Sure.
So we
Okay,
do
guys,
have the ability to, I mean, we do understand that. I mean, I can see that these are just young kids
I
who
know,
are
but
getting really passionate.
do you not feel that there's an over glorification because these 20-year-old kids are also the kids going out there and killing Omali Kurmis? Like, let's be honest, the
But
people doing
maybe
the
that's
violence.
what we are. I mean, I'm sorry, we do have this habit যে একজন ভালো হলে we're like, oh my god, like best ever or whatever,
No,
and then the
but-
next minute we all hate them. Like,
Okay, so to bring it back to the point is that sure they might have had some, not some, a major role in this thing, but I'm really disinclined to believe that they are the force that created the toppling of the government. They are not. They were the front of it, maybe, right? But the force that created, if we're going to concede that there may be foreign hands in it, which want to get control over our territory, over our resources, over our even our government, like if you want to admit that BNP and Jamaat want to come back in, then clearly these actors, much more sophisticated, much more
Of course,
sinister
but
actors, were
it
involved in
was,
the toppling of
yeah.
the government.
Of course, but you're also not taking into account these people from BNP and Jamaat, these people, who we think toppled the government with the students, right? They were people of the country. It wasn't just like random people who were like put in, like, people put in
Sure,
by America.
sure.
It was actually
So,
people
okay.
who had an issue with the government. And by the time she was toppled, it was pretty much the entire country.
Oh,
Right?
we don't
I
know
mean-
this. We
I
don't know
think
the
we're losing
referendum
focus.
being done about
I
how
think
many
we're
people
lo-
were involved. I
I
think that
listen- I think we're losing
I still
focus
don't
on
know
the objective of this particular episode. We've done the student year, we've done the Mujib thing, we've done the whole who might have done what and everything. The objective of this podcast is to figure out how things need to move forward. Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
And
Absolutely. So
and the
let's focus less on the what ifs
what if,
and
who
what's
toppled what,
happened.
and
Yeah,
let's
let's
talk.
move on. I mean, we know Jamaat, BNP, Awami League, everyone has the bad eggs, the good eggs, the somewhat suspicious eggs, the rotten eggs. But I think let's see what we can do moving forward. If you have a voice, use it. If you have something to say it to the person next to you. Disagree with them, like we've disagreed on a couple of things, but also listen to the other person.
I think involvement, if we get foreign involvement, I don't think we should just rely on one specific country. number one, because
Agreed.
automatically this will put every single country in this region around us on a state of alert. Okay, it's
Yes.
very simple. Okay, having America. This is what we were talking about. This is what today's going forward. How we need to do it. Right. If we can't
Yeah.
just totally be dependent on American assistance, be like, okay, you guys provide all the money, you guys do everything, you guys in it, whether we give them the base or not. All right. I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
there should be a multifaceted approach in whereby we ask for if we need to rebuild infrastructure, we ask the Chinese. If we need financing, we ask the Americans. And that financing should be not loan-based. We have enough loans. Okay, if you want to do projects or rebuild the country, do it based on a profit-sharing motive, something like that. But whatever assistance, whatever support we require should be from multiple countries and not dependent on one country. Because then what's going to happen are people are going to be concerned about our instability and the fact that we're dependent on one single country, and we will be classed as technically other chamcha. And to me,
okay, so let's kind of let's wrap it up because we are kind of going out. We are running out of time. Zishan, why don't you say your piece and then please go ahead.
I just want to add to what Kazi said, and I also want to not to bring up the past because that's obviously there's no point to it. But the reason why I think it's important for us to reckon with the narrative is because there are 2 or 3 narratives going at the moment. One is that this was a righteous movement against a horrible dictator. That's one narrative. The other narrative is that this was a planted thing to make us into a colony. That's another narrative. Or this was done by foreign powers to topple the regime. It's a color revolution. It's a regime change, classic Arab Spring stuff, right? That's another narrative. The third narrative is that we are.
Zishan, can you explain the color revolution thing for us?
The color revolution is a concept. It's used to explain these kind of revolutions that are basically set up revolutions by the US using democracy, using dictatorship. It has similar tropes across the world. It uses exactly the same language, has exactly the same format, and has been used to topple governments. So it's plausible that this was a color revolution. We don't know
topple governments and then get to them, be involved in their rebuilding.
And then get involved in the rebuilding, take their resources, make them into colonies, turn them into Libya, turn them into Syria, turn them into Ukraine. A bunch of things can happen. So we don't know if this is a color revolution, but it has all the hallmarks of a color revolution, right?
Right.
It could also be a coincidence that it looks like a color revolution. It could have also been, like many people say, a massive people's revolution that just happens to look like a color revolution. It happens a little bit too much to look like a color revolution, but we never know what's what. So it might be that this was actually a genuine homegrown revolution. The third narrative, in my opinion, is that it's a combination, that there was discontent. It was preyed on. It was fanned. It was amplified. The discontent was probably not as much as was eventually led to the overthrow, but that was created because it was a convenient way now. And I think people colluded. To be honest, I think there were people who were aware. People like, well, I'm not going to take any names, but there are people who led the movement or who were influential in the movement, who have openly admitted that they were coached and funded by foreign powers. So it's not exactly impossible that many of our own people colluded, in fact, collaborated with foreign powers.
Colluded now, collaborated.
Yeah, collaborated with foreign powers to overthrow their own government. That's make of that what you will, right? But depending on which narrative we go with, we will be able to see what if the narrative is that this is not for the benefit of Bangladeshis, then nothing we try to do for the benefit of Bangladeshis will work.
Yeah.
But we
have to keep in mind that this color revolution, or whatever this revolution was, this movement and where we are today has basically left our doors open.
Yes.
For any country to interfere.
Yes. And people can
No, so for any country to interfere, India was always interfering, but we kind of brushed over that. They've because of their involvements and whatever's coming out, how they harbored our prime minister and things like ex-prime minister and things like that, they're the bad guys right now, right? And the propaganda that they're spreading and everything. This is the perfect time for the Americans to jump in,
Absolutely.
Right.
To jump in and be the savior, the gung-ho savior that they always are.
Okay, guys, we need to wrap up. Zishan,
Okay.
finish what you're saying, and then we're gonna close up. So
Well, I was gonna actually basically agree that we have left ourselves open. Now, the argument is being made that we had no choice. Everyone seems to be convinced that this government was so horrible that it's better to have dropped our pants to the Americans. Like, I don't know if it's better, but people seem to be convinced that it's better. I seem to be a minority voice in this. That everyone thinks this government was so bad that it's better that we are in this situation than the previous one. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the story. So, and that's become the reality. So we need to move forward from here, but we need to keep our eyes open about the fact that this may not have been a benevolent revolution. That's all I'm trying to say.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that there is definitely a lot of truth in what you say. It's not a nice feeling, right? We don't want to think about it like that, but I think the best way to move forward is to be honest with ourselves and to recognize that this is a really, possibly terrifying moment in our history. And whether we're good on one side or the other, I mean, we're not going to know. But I think the most important thing is that we are here at this point, and there's only so much that we can do, but we need to do whatever is in our power, right? Because this is even dialogues like this. And yeah, I know that not being a Bengali speaking podcast is a huge disadvantage. We don't reach the actual people that we should be reaching. But at the same time, let's keep trying to spread the word as best as possible and also have some hope in our people. Zishan, I agree with you on, there's one thing I just wanted to comment on. So it's not about, it's either Sheikh Hasina or pulling down our pants for the US. I think it's that this was working, right? But it wasn't sustainable, right? And unfortunately, the person who was at the helm of driving us down this path was unable to understand that it was not sustainable and allowed her, whatever egos and her own interests to take over the interests of her country. So this is not necessarily a choice that all of us jumped into really happily. I mean, it's kind of just been shoved in our face. So, at this point, all we can do is try to influence the people who we know, try to encourage people to be understanding of each other, to be calm, to stop looting people, to go back to a sense of law and order, not to, intimidate our policemen. And I mean, I understand, but if we start from this moment, right, where we stop the anger and we start moving forward and we start being, better human beings to each other. We're just crappy human beings. We have to be better at that.
So I was going to say, I
basic
completely agree with Kazi.
duties.
I completely agree with Kazi about the rule of law and what you're saying right now. And to be honest, I have a lot of faith in our people. I don't believe that our people. I believe that our people did what they did from the right, from the right place in their heart.
Yeah.
I'm worried about whether they're being had or not. That's my point.
They might be, but all we can do, again, it's also our job to protect them on some level, right? We have to also guide them, right? I'm not saying they care about what we have to say, but I'm saying generally as a population, our age and our experiences should give us enough, ability to reach out to these kids and be like, listen, this is not the way, right? It doesn't have to be me or you. It can be someone that you speak to, who you've influenced, who has that connection to kids, right? I'm saying keep these conversations open and keep them positive so we can move forward, at least trying to be better. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it might, it's a different world. I really believe that.
We need to, first of all, we need to empower the police again.
Yeah.
We need to remove the students from the streets. We need to get the universities and schools open. They need to go back to school. Their representatives, jara ache, senior manush jara ache, we have two reps in the government. They should oversee every policy making, every committee that's formed, and oversee what's being discussed. They should represent the students and look at their benefits and let the professionals run the country. Okay?
Yeah.
It's very simple. We need to empower the police right now. Okay? তোমার একটা পুলিশের গাড়ি থামায় জিজ্ঞেস করবে যে ভাই can we check your license? Okay? And then the cop comes and says, I'm the OC. I'm guaranteeing you that this person has a license, and I can even show you my license as well. and they're like, no, you have to মানে so এখন পুলিশ কেন বলবে যে you know what ওখানে দাঁড়ায় আছে, he's there with his whole battalion with guns and there's like 50টা ছেলে with লাঠি, না লেখাইতেই হবে আঙ্কেল, দেখাতেই হবে আঙ্কেল, ঠিক আছে? So empower the police, empower the police, weed out the bad parts, restore law and order, then we can talk about how this country moves forward. Okay?
Yeah, agreed. And also these kids,
You guys sound like grumpy old men. You're like, আজকাল কার বাচ্চারা.
No,
well,
we're sounding like
I'm
grown-ups,
50.
for
I am
God's
a
sake.
grumpy old man. Okay, it doesn't matter. আমার সামনে যদি একটা দুধু খায় একটা বাচ্চা এসে আমাকে বলতেছে আপনি লাইসেন্স দেন, লাইসেন্স দেখা পড়তে লাইক, ও দোস্ত দেখো এটা ঠিক আছে নাকি, ও দোস্ত, why are you doing that, man? Go back to school. The schools are open now. Go back to
Power
school.
corrupts, right?
Yeah.
You know that. Power
These kids
corrupts.
don't want to do the exams. You know what? This Nahid guy who should say straight up, if you guys don't do your exams, you fail, not you pass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and ওরা বলতেছে যে আমরা quick
But, you know, there was a great clip of Sharmin Morshed from the interim government, one of the members of the interim. I can't remember what she is, but whatever it is, I mean, she was speaking to these students, and I really appreciated the way she was speaking to them. She was speaking to them, like I'm older than you, but also not, patronizing, or, she was being really understanding. She was trying to get them to hear what she was saying. She was like, why wouldn't you take the exams? Right? And they were like, we don't feel like it. And she's like, but that's not a real reason. You can't.
No, they also said
what I'm saying is that the recognition that these kids have felt disempowered for so long, and she's giving them that power by just hearing them out, right?
Tusi,
that is something.
Listen to yourself. Kids and empowerment.
Exactly.
What do you
I mean,
empowerment.
Guys,
I'm empowerment.
I'm a mental health therapist, so I have to also
borrow
take that as well.
You put kids and empowerment into, so then you might as well say kids and government. Let আমরা 17 জনকে বাদ দিয়ে দেই, right?
I understand what you're. I agree. I'm not in disagreement. I am playing the devil's advocate. I'm not in disagreement. I understand that the way it's unfolding now is definitely concerning, right?
Yeah.
Do you discipline your kids and scold your kids when they need to be scolded? You do. Everyone does, right? So these kids need to be scolded. These kids on the streets need to be scolded. They need to be taken away from this position that they think that that we need to explain ourselves to them. What
they
the hell
don't
is
need to be
that?
scolded. They need to go back to school, man. They need to go back to school.
Let's just go back to school.
Go back to school, guys.
Come out with a degree, and then do what you need to do.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
The language has to change from us appealing to them. Please, Baba. Please, Baba. It has to become. Do it somewhere else, Baba.
The students are also harassing their teachers, bullying their teachers, boycotting their teachers, and I do want to say that this is, I'm sorry, you have to have respect for your teachers. Whether they stood up for you or not is not your concern. These people have families to feed. They don't owe you like their entire livelihood just because they care about you. That is a completely ridiculous ask on any level, because I know a lot of people who take care of their families, and they have to, financially contribute in a big way to their families, and they can't afford to lose their job. So if they step out and say we're for the students, like if they had in July, they would have been fired. Who wants to take that chance? They were directly threatened. So my point is, it's also really unfair of these students, because you don't have families to feed. You don't know how scary it is to have someone be like,
they don't know shit.
No, but
they don't know shit.
was the past. Oito was the past. They did their job. Echono purjonto they're on the streets and everything. So and when they said that school guli khulle shate shate, or they're going to go back to their schools and everything, let them do that. Go back to your schools, and you have now. Be happy that you have representation in the government. Okay, talk about it. Form communities. You're much more active on social media than senior government officials. Discuss if something goes wrong. Discuss, put your point across, assess it, see if it's viable, see if it's feasible, and then we can make it into law after a discussion. Not like, acha eta hobe na, acha unake resign korte bolen, let's replace someone else.
There's a lot of hard workers.
Officer je apni okhane samne boshe thakbo, apni ekhoni bolen সাথে সাথে ফেসবুক লাইভ 50 জন
sure.
ক্যামেরা ধরে ই করবে। Come on, man.
Okay, guys, I think we should cut this short because it's been like almost an
but I
hour.
mean, these kids who just learned the word fascism in political science 101 and suddenly fascibadi korte korte more jaচ্ছে.
God, you
I'm not saying that
sound
these kids
so
run the country.
patronizing.
Yes, I'm a
Why?
fucking patronizing dick. I swear, I can't stand this shit.
No, I don't think it's patronizing. I don't think it's patronizing, Tushi. I don't think it's patronizing.
We've
I
all
think-
been in
enough to be the
college.
fucking
We all
pattern.
know
I
what
can
it's
patronize
like.
them.
We all know what it's like to be that age, to be idealistic, to have belief in certain ideologies that, you know, this pure belief in ideologies without having like the bitter, jaded perspective that we have now in our 40s. Of course, come on, we were all there. We've
Actually,
all
the
been
last
there at
15
that
No
years-
one
age.
that has run the country, and no one that has run the country. Okay, because you don't let
But
people
we
like
thought
that
we
run the country.
could. We thought we could. That's the thing. I
Anyway.
remember coming back when I was like finished with college and I literally thought I could like run this country. I was so stupidly confident. So it's not their fault. It's our job to be like, okay, thank you.
I'm not saying it's their fault. That's what I'm saying. It's not their fault. We need to be taking back the reins here. It's not
Maybe
their
not
fault.
like, you know, sorting them out and
it's become a
scolding
point
them.
that এখন it's become a
Scolding them and smacking them on their bottoms and sending them back
My
to bloody
God,
school.
Zishad, you're like a 1980s father, okay? Like, what the
I'm
hell? We don't
sorry.
do that to our kids anymore.
No,
That was like
we should
our
do this to our kids anymore. Fight them,
Well,
Igla.
good luck trying. You'll go to jail.
Igla
না,
সব-
তারপরে- এই করোনা টুসি ওরা ভিডিও করে সাথে সাথে ফেসবুকে উঠে দিবে, দরকার নেই থাক। তুমি ওকে বকা দিবা, এই তুমি ভাত খাইলে না কেন, দাঁড়াও আমি এখনই ফেসবুকে জানিয়ে দিচ্ছি সব।
Yeah, darkar nahi. Oh my
Darkar
God,
nahi,
no,
like
no,
that,
no.
man.
Our kids are very smart, man. They're not gonna like let that stuff fly, dude. It's just getting worse by generation in terms of how confident they are.
But I think we should talk
That's not
about
confidence, that's cockiness. But anyway,
Amra,
Yeah,
we should
Tushi Korona,
let's wrap
right.
up today, Tushi, and I think
Yes.
Amra, we should continue this in our next podcast about foreign interference. This needs another
Okay.
another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm sorry, I think we ran a little over time because we all got really into the conversation. I know some of us kind of went on and off on a ramble. Excuse us and forgive us. But we hope to see you for
we love our
the next
we love our
episode.
children. I just want to clarify that we love our children. Before anyone starts thinking that I hate children, I love children. Children are lovely things.
No, এটাও বলতে নাও পড়তে পারিস, man. এটাও বল, I love
Yeah,
children.
yeah.
এটাও বলতে পারবো না।
That's a
Oh,
little,
বললে
don't say that.
এগুলি বলতে পারবো না,
ew.
man. এগুলি বলতে পারবো না।
Be like-
Just চুপচাপ করে আল্লাহর কাছে দোয়া করো,
Say it.
যে কয়দিন বাঁচা আছো থেকে চলে যাবা। That's it.
সেটাই।
You should say that I just hate everyone
হ্যাঁ,
Oh,
that's why I stayed home.
equally. Equal rights.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right,
Tushi.
guys. Take care and thank you for joining us.
Thank
See ya.
you. See ya. Bye.
Bye.